Hello, Emmy fans. Gold Derby editor is here to talk about the Emmy races for drama. Emmy voting is underway as we're recording this, and the front runner to win Best Drama Series is The Crown on Netflix about Queen Elizabeth II, her rise to the throne. But that's not what we are predicting will win, at least not the three of us. I'm here with Chris Beachum and Marcus Dixon. I'm Daniel Montgomery. So let's start with Marcus. What do you think is going to win? We're actually all predicting the same thing, so let's
yes, we're going on a little bit of a limb here for Law and Order Special Victims Unit. It's been a long time coming, everyone. No, it's going to be another NBC show, This Is Us. And I think we all kind of have our own reasons, but my big reason is that it's very broad. Everyone can see themselves in this show, all sizes, all ages, all races, everyone can identify with it. It's also very, very high rated, which for broadcast is kind of rare these days. I think it was the #1 broadcast show in the demo this year. And it sustained buzz from the moment it premiered in September all the way to the finale in March. That's so many months of buzz compared to some other shows we'll talk about that kind of had buzz, for 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then died out. So all of those reasons combined, plus it's gonna get acting nominations, it's gonna get possibly writing and directing, for the pilot, for Memphis. It's got a good shot.
Yeah, I think I have it for Best Drama sort of by default. Because I can't decide what's going to win. This is going to be one of those categories where, depending on what the number of nominations are, what nominations in key categories are, it could change things drastically. But for me, it comes down to the fact that it has the rare combination of the broad popularity, high ratings, broadcast network television, very accessible, and the cool factor, which broadcast networks have not had in drama for a long time. Given what you can do in cable and in streaming services, that you don't have the same standards and practices and the creative restrictions as you do on broadcast networks, plus trying to produce 18, 20, 22 episodes a year on broadcast changes the dynamic of the creativity. But yeah, I feel like it ticks those boxes, but it's going to need some key nominations. What do you think, Chris?
Drama will definitely be a place where I'm looking at actual nominations day to see how things fall. The Crown, for example, there's no question it's going to be among drama series. I don't know about something like Feud, but it's going to be the most nominated show. There's no question. So what else does it get in the big stuff? We know it'll get John Lithgow and Claire Foy. Does it get a third actor, a fourth actor? That might influence me to move it up. Same with Stranger Things. It's going to have a lot of nominations, mostly technical. Where does it get in for acting? And all of these, of course, drama, directing and writing, we're looking for those because that's crucial. Like you mentioned, casting. This Is Us way overperformed with the TCA this week. That's something I look at, not because they have any authority over voting at the Emmys. This Is Us is not the type of show critics normally go for. Something that's family oriented, something that has doesn't have the cool factor that like a Stranger Things might have, or a Handmaid's Tale, which they both got several nominations. I wasn't expecting This Is Us to get in. I thought I knew it would get in for like new program, but maybe not program of the year. That's impressive on this kind of a show. Again, I'll be looking at, I think Sterling and Chrissy seem to be safe. Or does it get in a third, fourth, fifth actor? That would be. And the show, Marcus and I have been saying for, I think 3 months now, when we met with Hulu and saw how high they were on The Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale might well be the second most nominated show because of all the technical. Elisabeth Moss should be safe, but where else does it get in? Don't write that one off. It's airing at the perfect time. All three of these others have been over for, Crown and Stranger Things have been over forever. This Is Us wrapped up, in April? So Handmaid's Tale was airing at the perfect time. I think it's a little too dark for them probably to vote for it for actually winning drama series, but I'll be looking to see where it gets in. It's amazing that we're talking about so many new shows in this category. Normally we typically go with Emmy voters, we'll go with what they know and then add in new stuff as they can. So with Game of Thrones gone, with Downton Abbey gone, we knew there'd be 2 open slots, but just the fact that I've got 4 new shows in means I've kicked 2 out. I've kicked 2 of last year's out.
And how jealous will Netflix be if Hulu's first big, nominated show, Handmaid's Tale, which we're assuming will be nominated, if that actually wins and beats Netflix, that's been in this business for 4 years now.
Well, and I didn't finish my thought from earlier, but 3 months ago, people were calling you and me crazy, Marcus, when we started saying, look out for Handmaid's Tale. All I heard over and over was, Hulu doesn't get in, they can't get in. Well, no network gets in until they get in. I mean, that's been the case ever since
AMC, AMC doesn't get in.
So, right, so voters don't really, unless it's the CW, voters don't really care where you're airing. About ratings, they care about critical response, they care about the coolness factor.
I will say that the more players you get in the game, the harder it is for you to break through. You really just need that one hot show to do it. Like Amazon, all they needed was transparent, but they've struggled with everything else that they've had in comedy and drama. Netflix is the one that, because they really laid the foundation and they laid the claim to streaming. They're kind of identified in such a way that they've had an easier time getting their shows on the map, like multiple shows. Hulu is still waiting for that first one, and if it's gonna be, Handmaid's Tale is about as good as you could ask for. It has the pedigree, it has the actors, it has the acclaim, it has it's airing at the right time,
and it'll have the nominations.
And it will probably have.
It'll be in the teens.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna see a revolution in best drama series. We're gonna see. I have 5 new shows coming in. I only have 2 of last year's. I have Better Call Saul and The Americans. So I've kicked out things like House of Cards and Homeland and Mr. Robot. So I could realistically see all 5 new ones get in, and that's This Is Us, The Crown, Stranger Things, Handmaid's Tale, and Westworld. It has been about a decade since HBO has not had a drama series nominated. It was 2000.
They even got Big Love in.
Got Big Love. It got True Blood in. It got True Detective in. So,
or I think, and I don't have either one in right now, but of the 2,
The Leftovers is the other one.
The Leftovers being the other one. I think the Leftovers has run as good a campaign as any show, and we've only had 2 years of non-success with it. So it wasn't like this is season 8 for its finale. Could that be the show that gets in here and not Westworld?
That's actually what I'm predicting. I do have Leftovers in my number 7 spot. I'm going out on a bit of a limb, but again, it's only the 3rd year of the show, and it's such different circumstances for a couple of reasons. One, because Game of Thrones is out, and The Leftovers is in its time slot. Both of the times that Leftovers has been eligible and didn't get in, it was airing the previous fall or the previous summer. So it was ages ago for any
forgotten about the time they were voting. I don't think it's had a good opportunity at the Emmys. So this might be, and I could easily see it getting in, say, for writing or directing or both, especially the finale, which, we talk about timing. You just mentioned, it just finished up in early June. So the timing on it, not only was it able to run an actual Emmy campaign this time, but it could also rely on its normal, everyday advertising campaign to get people to watch, along with an Emmy campaign. So, I'm really debating now that we're talking, maybe House of Cards I should pull out. Netflix, but that season just landed with a thud. So, maybe like a Kevin and Robin make it back in, but the show doesn't.
Yeah, I don't have House of Cards currently in my top group, but I feel like just to hammer home the point on The Leftovers, we've seen it happen before. We've seen Friday Night Lights struggle, and then suddenly it gets Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton in at the same time, and then it gets drama series nomination the next year, and it wins a couple. The Americans struggled for several years, and then it got drama, actor, and actress, all of them for the first time the same year last year. So, you know, there's precedent for it not only coming in after a drought for a few seasons, but coming in big. And I actually think I do have it in for drama actor and actress right now, just kind of on a hunch. I might change these before. I might chicken out by the time by we get closer to the Emmy nominations. But
I'll say
well, and another reason that House of Cards might fall, in addition to the reasons we just said, and you know, specifically pointing to something. You know, each network, each studio, each company has voters within its own offices. Don't you? And they can mark as many as they want, but still, if you're a Netflix voter, you work for Netflix. Wouldn't all of your attention be on The Crown and Stranger Things? House of Cards is not in your mindset. It doesn't help you nearly as much at this stage, at this point of the run, to get more nominations.
I will say about House of Cards, if last season 4 is the one that had aired this year, I would be probably predicting it in my top 3. That was such a good season. This season, yes, was a bit of a letdown. I still enjoyed it. And the other thing I was going to say about The Leftovers was we had a slugfest with the 3 of us and Tom and Paul about 3 weeks ago now, and I kind of poo-pooed the idea of The Leftovers. And I started thinking about it afterwards, and then I put in Carrie Coon for actress, and I put in Ann Dowd for a guest actress when those predictions opened. So I'm getting closer and closer to predicting it for drama series. It's probably in my 8th slot, in that phantom slot.
Yeah.
Of the ones we haven't talked about is I'm just looking down the list here, further down. I think most of these don't really have a strong shot. But what about American Gods, also airing at a perfect time? Starz has been really amping up and getting better and better at their campaigning. Is that a possibility? And it would fit more than any show. I think it fits the mindset of a voter that's missing Game of Thrones.
It's interesting. I almost think that, you know, the philosophy we were talking about with something like, you know, Handmaid's Tale and Leftovers airing later in the season, and that's an advantage. I almost wonder if that's almost a disadvantage for American Gods, because I feel like the buzz is building. But like, you know, you have a show like Stranger Things, which I think if Stranger Things were released this past spring, it might be struggling because it would be still so new. It has by now developed into this phenomenon that's almost too big to fail. You know, so maybe if American Gods had more time, even after airing, to develop that buzz, or it could have been the kind of show that falls off a cliff in terms of people discussing it after it's over. It's hard
American
to
Gods
say.
really could be a Golden Globe kind of a show, giving them time to really see it. And of course, the Game of Thrones will be back too. But I mean, it could really, and they always pick something from Starz every year for the Globe. So that it might need a few more months of gelling together. Do you think?
It might, and like you said, at the Golden Globes with Starz, they've nominated Outlander, they've nominated The Missing, The White Queen, I believe, was nominated at the Golden Globes. You know, so they really like Starz over there more than the Emmys have so far. But like we were talking about Hulu, you know, a network never gets in until it does, and it really feels like Starz is pushing this one hard, especially in the absence of Outlander this season, not having any episodes eligible this year. So it's going to be interesting. I don't see it cracking drama series, but I think we could see it maybe surprise in. It could do very well below the line in creative arts categories. We could see it in guest categories, which we'll talk about in a minute. Yeah, so yeah, that's certainly a possibility.
For years at Gold Derby, we talked about how there's a sci-fi fantasy curse at the Emmys. I think that curse is over. I mean, look at the shows that we're talking about will get nominations. Westworld, The Handmaid's Tale is a fantasy, Stranger Things, American Gods. I mean, is that all thanks to Game of Thrones, which really, I mean, Lost, of course, won a decade ago, but Game of Thrones really, I think, ended that curse.
Yeah, Game of Thrones did. I wouldn't even count Lost. I mean, it eventually, and even on that first season, it had those elements, but the episodes they submitted, which they mattered then, were all very self-contained, humanistic, you know, looking at the past lives of these people that were now on the island, like one at a time. They picked 6 episodes that were self-contained. So you didn't even get a voter that didn't normally watch it, didn't even get any of the supernatural stuff, really.
And then when we saw with I think Lost should be credited because it was those kind of growing pains where the more sci-fi elements Lost got, the more it struggled in terms of the Emmys after that first year. But I think if it hadn't been for Lost, we wouldn't have seen them be so open to Game of Thrones. And now that they're so open to Game of Thrones, I think just the TV landscape, the success of shows like Game of Thrones and even The Walking Dead, which doesn't get Emmy nominations, but the fact that they're so successful means we're getting more of them on TV and more prestige sci-fi and fantasy on TV. So, I mean, if the Emmys wanted to avoid voting for all of them, then they would have to nominate Law & Order SVU this year. Well, let's move on to the lead acting categories. Drama actress. Speaking of categories where we could have like a bunch of new nominees. Here you've got the reigning champion Tatiana Maslany, not in the running this year because Orphan Black didn't come back until June, so no new episodes in the eligibility period. So, and that was in itself such a big surprise last year. So, what even happens here?
For months, I was picking Viola Davis, the winner of 2 years ago before Tatiana, and of course, she just won the Oscar for Fences, and she has all the industry admiration. They love her. But then I watched The Handmaid's Tale, and it's unquestionable in my mind who deserves to win Best Drama Actress, and that's Elisabeth Moss. And we know the Emmys love her. She has, I think, 5 nominations for Mad Men, 1 for Top of the Lake. This is someone they kind of owe an Emmy, like they owed John Hamm an Emmy, so they gave him one for the final season of Mad Men. But until I actually watched it, I wasn't convinced. I was hearing everyone kind of yammering on about how great she is. I'm like, yeah, she's great. But then I watched it. She's amazing. Give her the Emmy.
It's a fun category. I mean, you get past the 6 whatever 6 you got in your predictions, and you're leaving out at least 4 to 6 that probably could have made it any other year. I'll tell you who I don't have in, and you're like, wow, I don't have Kerry Russell in. I don't have Viola Davis in. I don't have Claire Danes in. Taraji P. Henson.
Do you have Christine Baranski?
I do. I don't have Mandy Moore. I mean, that's people that probably could have made it based on their shows or them or whatever, and most any other year. So that kind of tells you I've got Claire, Elizabeth. I may switch Elizabeth to 1 now that I hear more from you. Robin Wright, Christine Baranski, Evan Rachel Wood, and Carrie Coon. So
I ended up taking out Robin Wright, just not because she's not fantastic this season. She is fantastic. She has a great storyline, but with people like Christine Baranski coming in and Elisabeth Moss and Claire Foy, plus I put in Carrie Coon as well. There's no room for people like Robin Wright or who else did you say that I don't have?
You
but there's
have Viola Davis, right?
I do have Viola. Yeah,
she's not getting in.
They've
never watched that show. They've never seen it.
They've never seen half of these shows that Cloris Leachman has been nominated and won for, that Ellen Burstyn. I don't think they watch How to Get Away with Murder, but I think if it weren't for the Oscar, I'd probably drop her from the category, especially because she didn't win last year against Tatiana.
Remember, of all the people, I mean, we knew she'd get dropped at the Globes, or I did, because they move on after about 2 to 3 years. She got dropped at SAG, where she had won 2 years in a row. So,
well, she still won a SAG award. So.
I know, but I mean, I'm it wasn't like they felt obligated anymore.
I wonder if there was strategy involved where they knew they were going to give her one for Fences, so they're like, let's open this category.
No, I don't think. I mean, they're not. The SAG voters are about the least. I wanted to say intelligent, but the least.
Hey, Tom O'Neill is a SAG voter.
They're the most sheep-like of any group. I mean, we've seen people win 7 in a row, and Orange is the New Black of all shows has won 3 ensemble in a row. So they weren't thinking. They just didn't want to vote for her anymore.
Yeah. I agree with Chris on that one, and even if they were trying to be strategic, you're talking about, I'm not sure how large those nominating committees are. There are like hundreds or thousands of people deciding on the nominees. It's like, even if you're trying to think strategic, you've got a different group of people thinking differently, strategically in different ways. So I don't think they could all get together and decide, okay, we're all going to nominate Viola for Fences, so we don't have to nominate her for How to Get Away with Murder. I think they would have nominated her. They could have easily nominated her for both.
If anything, I think it was more of a surprise because we've seen many times with them, especially where they've nominated people. If they had the chance to nominate them multiple times, they would easily do it. I mean, look at Idris Elba winning twice the year before for TV and film. So they don't mind doing that at all. I think if Viola was in the same exact situation as we're about to talk about on lead actor, she'd be in easily because I don't think that one's nearly as tough. But here, it's just too many people, and they're all on shows. Every show we're talking about could be up for either would be up for best drama series or would be like a Westworld would be very close to being in for drama series. Well, maybe not Christine Baranski, but Good Fight's right in the mix for drama series. I mean, it's really the only thing CBS has that could get in. So I mean, How to Get Away with Murder is like 50th for drama series. So I just don't think so.
Yeah, and there are so many people in this category who could get in under it. I think Mandy Moore has a shot. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone who I've certainly personally championed a lot, who seems like kind of an underdog, but it's a huge show. Catherine Langford for 13 Reasons Why. We've seen Claire Danes for My So-Called Life and Amber Tamblyn, Joan of Arcadia, kind of these teen shows. When they have that kind of breakout lead performance, occasionally breaks through. I mean, Claire Danes and Amber Tamblyn didn't have this TV landscape and this competition to deal with, but 13 Reasons Why is a much bigger hit than those shows were. So I wouldn't even count that one out. I do think Taraji probably has a better shot than she's being given credit for in her odds, just because, if Viola is going to be helped by Fences, then Taraji is going to be helped by Hidden Figures. So yeah, this is, and it's kind of gratifying that Best Drama Actress and Best Comedy Actress we were talking about earlier are some of the most competitive at these awards. We can almost never say the same thing about Best Actress at the Oscars because there's so far fewer great showcase roles for women. So it sounds like we're going to have a much shorter conversation about the men then.
Right, there's really only just like 10 contenders really in the running. I mean, I don't know who you guys have. I have Sterling K. Brown winning, and it's not a slam dunk by any means. But if the voters love This Is Us as much as America did, I think he's a shoo-in. He just won last year, so he's in this honeymoon phase. He won for The People versus OJ, and it's just a really great standout role from the show. I mean, to me he is This Is Us. Sterling K. Brown is.
Well, and you know what episodes he's going to submit. So I just moved him into first, just looking at my list. I had Kevin Spacey kind of in the IOU factor, but I think I'm moving him down to about third. He should easily get in. If this race was as competitive, like just to get into the 6 as drama actress, I think Kevin Spacey would be down around 6 or 7 after the reception for this season. But I don't know that. I mean, you said 10. I don't know that when you get past about the top, maybe 8, do they really have a shot at getting in there? I've got it's like a 3 that I think have a shot at winning, depending on how things fall. Sterling, Bob Odenkirk, Kevin Spacey. And I don't know why the experts are. I mean, Rami Malek, that was a great win last year, but I think he gets back in, but I got him in 4th place. And then Liev Schreiber seems to get in all the time. And then I've got Billy Bob Thornton. He just seems like and he just won the Globe. It's David E. Kelly. Not sold on that, but that leaves out for me Matthew Rhys, Anthony Hopkins, Kyle Chandler is one of those guys. We talked about certain people just, they just love that person. Doesn't matter if they've seen it or not. He could get back in. Ian McShane, they only got 1 time in for Deadwood. Milo could get caught into a sweep for This Is Us. And I guess maybe, and Freddie Highmore, I mean, that's one of your guys.
Yeah.
If he was ever going to get in, I mean, they campaigned hard and maybe he could get in.
Freddie was so good this season. I think if Bates Motel gets a nomination, it'll be in maybe the next category that we talk about, though.
Yeah, I've actually got it's one of those things going with my leftovers theory is like I don't think it gets in drama series without bringing in Justin Theroux. So I've got him in my 6. I've got Matthew Rhys getting back in, Malik getting back in. It's actually my most conservative category. Mostly people who are returning. I've actually got Bob Odenkirk still to win. I feel like with House of Cards having dropped in terms of a lot of people's perception of it and buzz for it, even though it just started streaming at the end of May. It would normally be Kevin Spacey's turn in a sense, but I think Bob Odenkirk has the acclaim that Kevin Spacey doesn't still have for House of Cards. And Better Call Saul is airing at the right time, and you're going to have those Breaking Bad fans who are going to be voting for him. They voted, of course, for Bryan Cranston to win 4 times. So yeah, it's a pretty. And then after that, I think the only ones, I'm worried about Liev Schreiber because, as Chris mentioned, he could get back in because he's gotten back in. He's gotten in once or twice already for this show, and we keep underestimating Ray Donovan every year. Anthony Hopkins could get in. But then after that, yeah, I'm not sure about Kyle Chandler. I think Netflix dropped Bloodline like a bad habit, and I just don't know that it's going to have the juice to get in. But it should be more interesting to talk about a drama supporting actress because there's no choice but to.
The field is clean.
Yeah, almost clean. Like you've got 4 guaranteed open spots. 3 nominees from Game of Thrones last year are out. Maggie Smith for Downton Abbey, who won last year. Downton Abbey's over, so that's out. And then the only 2 returning nominees, neither is guaranteed to get back in. That's Maura Tierney for The Affair and Constance Zimmer for Unreal. They should be so thrilled that these 4 slots are open because they might stay in. Otherwise, they might have fallen out.
I would throw in Uzo too as a returning nominee, even though she got snubbed last year. I kind of think she was probably 7th place last year.
I'm certain she was close. Yeah.
Who do you have winning? I've made a couple switches here. First, I had Chrissy Metz. Then I had Vera Farmiga, who's the Bates Motel nominee that I was talking about earlier. But now I have Tandy Newton for Westworld.
I think it's Chrissy or Tandy that'll win. I think they've got, the prestigious new show. They've got if people do watch episodes, they've got episodes. When you get past those 2, I don't have anybody from last year getting in. And that's,
oh, wow.
Do people watch The Affair? Do they watch Unreal? I don't know.
As I say, oh wow, I look at my predictions and I also do not have Constance or Maura, so I take back the oh wow.
I do have Vera. I've got Vera. I think this feels right. She made a really good choice going supporting, and they've rewarded her once before for this role, so it's not like and she's a film star. They love film stars. Millie Bobby Brown had the breakout season. I think she gets in. Vanessa Kirby I've got in because I think if The Crown is going to potentially win series, which I don't have it, but I mean, let's say I think she gets swept in. And I've got Winona Ryder. I could be talked out of Winona Ryder. I know Ralph, who used to be with us, would strongly say Uzo's easily in, but I don't know. I mean, it wasn't. They put in some new people last year, Marcus, and knocked the defending champion out. So even if she was in 7th place, that's a pretty strong omission.
If they're watching Orange right now, I mean, it just premiered right now during voting, and Uzo, of course, is great as always. I'm halfway through it. She doesn't have as much screen time as she has previously. So I wonder if that will affect her. As far as Winona versus Millie, I think Winona is safer than Millie. They really don't like kids.
Millie got in at SAG though, which I thought was very impressive.
Right, and Winona did as well.
Well, no, but I mean they don't. Winona was campaign lead, for Globes and SAG. They don't have a lead for SAG, but obviously their mindset. She got in lead at the Globes. So you would have to say, even at that moment, SAG was considering her. We wouldn't consider her a supporting getting in, which rarely happens, with SAG nominations, as they don't have. This is a combine everybody. I'm not saying this very well. Millie getting in as a child and as a supporting player, that was pretty impressive to get in at SAG.
Yeah, I've got both of the Stranger Things women getting in. I've got Tandy winning. Although after TCA, Westworld was completely blanked at the TCA Awards. Again, not that they are necessarily influencing of the Emmys, but that seemed like a TCA kind of show. And if it's already dropping off with them, it might be we might see it underperform at the Emmys too, potentially. So I'm worried about Tandy there. But yeah, I've got more in because I think they like her. I don't think they watch The Affair, but I think they generally like her. I just moved in Vanessa Kirby. Like while we've been talking, I've been moving things around. Whenever someone makes a point, I sort of make an addition. It's interesting how the stock exchange of Gold Derby is affected by just our speech just right now talking.
So who did you take out? Everyone wants to know if you just put in.
I had last year's two returning nominees getting back in, Maura and Constance. I just took out Constance, but again, I could put her back in tomorrow or a week from now, or I could put in Margot Martindale from The Americans because
Constance Zimmer gave you a bunch of wine a couple weeks ago. She filled your belly with wine.
She did. That's why I'm very wary because people who give me I judge Emmy contenders by two standards, and it's the sliders at their events and how much wine they give me. So she should win, really. But yeah, it's just it's such a weird category where you could have trying to predict which 6 brand new people could get in, or returning people like Vera Farmiga or Uzo Aduba, who have been nominated before.
Well, Margot
for
is
these
technically a returning, even though it's a different category. She's won twice for this small role on The Americans. I eventually pulled her out. It's not as easy to get in supporting as it is guest, and she's on the ballot no matter how you flip the ballot. We talked about on the previous chat, A to Z, Z to A. She's still got her face next to 2 different names, 2 different shows on the supporting actress ballot, and even if that just takes a few votes away one way or the other, I don't think that helps her.
The thing that hurts Margot is she was up for The Good Wife last year in supporting. A lot of people were predicting her. I think I was predicting her too, and she got snubbed. She got snubbed.
Should have easily gotten in.
Her very, very out, over the top type of role that the Emmys usually go for. Whereas the Americans this season, she's often sitting at a table drinking coffee, and it's just not. I don't think she's going to get in either. But we love you, Margot. If you're watching, we love you. We hope you get in.
Well, there's a Margot Martindale type, this kind of hardworking veteran character actress type who I just now, as you two were speaking, I made another change. I just added her because if Handmaid's Tale does that well, and Dowd, it's a showy performance. It's a big performance.
Have double nominations this year.
Absolutely, she's gonna get people who knew her, who knew of her work in The Leftovers, and she made a return appearance to that this year. Which is an amazing, thing. She's been dead on The Leftovers for since season 1, and she just keeps making appearances, which is just a wonderful thing about that show. It's career security. But yeah, I feel like, Handmaid's Tale is a big contender for Best Drama Series. She fits that kind of character actor profile who, everyone in the TV Academy has worked with her. Half of the TV Academy has probably worked with her this year. So
from the same show that we just interviewed this week, that's why I was thinking about her. Samira Wiley also has 2 shows and had a huge impact on Orange, and then is also Handmaids. That's the kind of person, especially even more on Handmaids, because I think if they go Orange, they'll go Uzo. But somebody that they're seeing on various things. If Handmaids overperforms, and Dowd and Samira Wiley could get in.
Right.
And the only other name that I see that just really jumps out at me, it was just about this time in the run of Breaking Bad where Anna Gunn started getting in. So what about Ray Seahorn?
Oh, that would just makes so many people very, very happy. I would love that. And she had a great season as well. I mean, I think
the women in every category.
We've named 25 people that
I know
should get nominations.
And what's amazing is that we've named 20 women who could get into this category with 4 open slots.
Yeah. It's not like we got Maggie Smith, who I've got your trophy here, Maggie, if you still want it. It's not like she's going to clog up this thing anymore.
But she's not even going to come and get it. You could just hold on to it for a while. So drama supporting actor, this should take 30 seconds. So John Lithgow, moving on.
Right. No, it's not a done deal.
No, I agree.
It is not a done deal.
Something I'm worried about with John Lithgow is I think he gives the best performance of the year, but anytime we do an article on him, it doesn't get the clicks that some of these other people, like a Jonathan Banks, gets.
If he was such a lot, why was he not in a TCA yesterday?
No, that's true.
I mean, this was one of the performances of the year on a show that they put in for, I think, new program, right? So they were watching it, not even nominated.
And he also lost the Golden Globe.
Didn't win the Globes. That's right. He won at SAG, but not the Globes. Should have been easy. So
if he loses, who wins?
That's the tougher question. I think I feel safer predicting him to win this category than virtually any acting category. Just because it's one of those situations, almost like Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Like, if not him, then who? Right now,
I've got a who.
Well, right now, my number 2 slot is not even guaranteed to get nominated. But I've got Ron Cephas Jones in that.
That's who I have in second.
If he's one of those actors, the hardest thing will be getting in. If he gets in, then watch out, because he's got the sentimentality, he's got the episode.
That's something we talk about, where if we see someone like him get in, that's really, really good news for This Is Us overall to win Best Drama Series, because he's not a slam dunk nomination.
And doesn't really, I mean, Justin Hartley could get in, but probably not. He was really helped by Sterling going lead, because the other issue I have with John Lithgow, I've got Jared Harris getting in. And
so do I, actually.
In situations like this, we've seen, the vote splitting doesn't all, I mean, if you've got a Ron sitting there, maybe John and Jared kind of get caught up together.
Well, we did it in the comedy discussion about, Kate McKinnon, with SNL, talk about if she has a rival from SNL nominated, if she's the obvious choice, does vote splitting really hurt her? I think it's even more the case with Lithgow and Harris. I do agree it's potential that could hurt him a little, but I feel like,
well, maybe I'm the only one on the planet, but I think other people would think like me. I was more, by the time I saw the show, sometimes things and people are so overhyped. I was thoroughly impressed by Jared Harris, and John Lithgow was great, but Jared really surprised me. So I would, if I was personally voting for the slate that I have on my screen right now, I would go Jared over John.
I just made a switch. I copied Daniel, and I'm switching as we're talking. I took out Michael Kelly, who he's been in for 2 years for House of Cards, but I think we may see House of Cards dip a little bit, mostly because of shows on Netflix like The Crown and Stranger Things. But I put in Michael McKean for Better Call Saul. This is somebody we thought had a good shot last year, but didn't quite make it. But he did get in at the Critics' Choice Awards, and I realize he has Jonathan Banks, battling with him from his own show. But Jonathan's screen time, when you think back at season 3, it was quite lower than in previous seasons.
I had Jonathan in. I had Michael in last year, I remember, and Jonathan out, and it was just the reverse. So I'm not falling for that trick again.
Michael really was, I don't want to say a co-lead to Bob Odenkirk, but he had a huge storyline, a great Emmy episode in episode 5, I think it was.
Same last year.
Well, I'm sticking with both.
Yeah.
You've got both.
Yeah.
I've got Banks getting in, and I've got Giancarlo joining him instead of Michael McKean.
I've got 2 Westworld people.
I've got just one Westworld guy.
I got Jeffrey Wright in third. Jeffrey Wright, to me, well, take the women out. On the male side, was just the heart and soul of the whole show. Mm-hmm. And a past Emmy winner, Tony winner. I think he's got a shot at winning, but I've got Ed Harris in. Again, they love the movie stars. And Ed, often in his career has not played the flat out villain, and he is here. I've got him in 6th place, but I think he'll jump out at them on a ballot potentially.
I think in Jeffrey Wright's prose column is that he essentially plays 2 different characters, and I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't watched it, but halfway through the season you find out something else is going on with him. And Ed Harris, he's great, but it's kind of an understated performance, but that's how it's written.
Yeah. And there's another twist that I won't reveal about the Ed Harris character. Because of that twist, which is revealed at the end of the season, for 9/10 of the season, this character is shrouded in so much mystery that you can't really get a handle on him.
Right. It's kind of aggravating.
So perhaps voters will feel that way. Although it's Ed Harris, he's an Oscar-nominated actor. He's been nominated for an Emmy for Game Change. So he's certainly the kind of guy that they'd like. But speaking of the film veterans, we haven't talked about one of last year's nominees, Jon Voight, for Ray Donovan. Ray Donovan, we keep underestimating. We keep saying that. And, he and Liev got in last year. The show did better than ever last year. And does it gain or does it start slipping again? Did it kind of miss its opportunity? Has it done as good as it's going to get? Or are we underestimating Jon Voight?
I have Ray Donovan getting in for the same ones as last year. So I have Liev Schreiber, I have Jon Voight, and then in guest star I have Hank Azaria. I see no reason to take them out at this point, but I could be wrong.
Jon Voight's not going to be helped at all by Donald Trump. He was a big supporter, did the narration at the convention. That's not going to help him.
Yeah.
Not saying it's going to hurt him, but it's not going to help him.
Yeah, I'm looking at the supporting actor list. I don't think there are many other people who are we haven't discussed who are really strong.
Maybe
David Harbour.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Oh.
It was like season 2 or 3, maybe. The one that I went in to add people that we didn't know off the ballot were essentially eligible until we got the ballots last week, and I was just looking for either shows that had more people than I thought, or names. It didn't matter what their show. People that Emmy voters like. Did never underestimate the fact that Beau Bridges is eligible for Bloodline. They just love Beau Bridges.
Bloodline, last year's winner Ben Mendelsohn is in.
So he can just take Ben's slot. That's
drama guest actor this year. Do you guys have him coming back for guest actor? I do.
I do, but not in first place.
Right.
Yes, I have him in my list. But yeah, I don't even know what's going to happen in this category.
Well, you will never, unless he doesn't get nominated, which would be a tragedy. You will never get me to move Gerald McCraney off the top line.
That's the one thing that he's the only one in my top 6 who I feel even safe is getting in. I'd be really shocked if he's not nominated is Gerald McCraney.
Something we noticed is, we do a lot of interviews. I think, Chris, you said 200 and something interviews we've done this season. And when we posted the Gerald McCraney interview and it went out on Twitter, his castmates Milo retweeted it, Mandy retweeted it, Chrissy Metz retweeted it, the director Ken Nolan, the show. We never see that. The fact that all of his co-stars are
sometimes, not everybody.
His co-stars are coming together to share the words that he has never been nominated. He's been working for 40-something years, never a single Emmy nomination.
He could be this year's Bob Newhart.
I hope.
He better get nominated. If they go, with just the 6 most frequent names, like Ben Mendelsohn, Hank Azaria, Dylan Baker, Beau Bridges. If they just go with names they're familiar with. Not that they're not familiar with him, but just ones that they always nominate. Let's say it that way. And they don't put him in. I'm going to be so frustrated.
Are you going to be done with the Emmys?
No, I won't be done with the Emmys, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's literally
there's no negative.
Yeah,
he fits everything you would ever want, other than being a past awards type favorite. He's on a show that's going to be in the mix. He's in the right age range. He's a veteran. He's worked with everybody. He's likable.
He's got an episode.
He's got the episode. I'd be so. If he's going to stay in my number 1 slot the whole way, unless he doesn't get in.
And honestly, there is no. We talk about how all these other categories are like 10, 15, 20 names that you could see get into any given category. I can't think of 6 people in this category who could get in ahead of him where it wouldn't be outrageous.
Yeah. I've got two that I just look at and go, really?
Yeah,
Gerald, Ben, Hank, and Dylan Baker. And after that, I just dropped in David Strathairn for Billions and Beau Bridges for Masters because he's gotten in for that role before.
Yeah,
If Gerald, go ahead.
No, I'm only confident down to 3. So I've got Gerald on top. I've got Hank Azaria and Ben Mendelsohn, just because, Ben Mendelsohn's won before in supporting, and Hank Azaria, of course, won this category last year. So those feel relatively safe. And then after that, it's like, well, then what? Because I'm not even sure Dylan Baker gets back in. I don't know how well The Good Fight is going to do. I've actually got Dennis O'Hare getting in because, he's familiar to Emmy voters for This Is Us also. And then after that, I was just like, well, then what? And so as sort of a hunch right now, and this is probably going to change, I put in Lars Mikkelsen for House of Cards just because we've seen House of Cards really surprise in these guest categories for people who aren't household names, like, future Oscar winner Mahershala Ali last year. So it's kind of, but yeah, after 2 or 3, it's really hard to see who gets in here. It's a shame that some of those supporting women couldn't somehow reclassify themselves as guest actors, because oh my goodness, they would have so much easier a ride here.
Yeah, if Gerald doesn't get nominated, there's no reason to predict this category. There's no reason to go to the Creative Arts Emmys. I'm just going to boycott. But I have, for other nominees, I have Hank Azaria, Ben Mendelsohn, Brian Tyree Henry, Dennis O'Hare, Dylan Baker for The Good Fight.
I think Gerald is done a disservice if these other This Is Us people get in. That's it may not help him at all.
It might, yeah. It might be a bit of a disadvantage. Or
there's no overlap, which to me, if I'm a voter, and I wouldn't do this as a voter, but I could see the voters that go, well, Gerald's not even in this Brian episode, and he's not even in this Dennis episode, and guest especially is not about that. But it didn't. Somebody that should have been, potentially a winner last year for a second time in Reggie Cathy could not overcome the fact that there were 3 House of Cards people last year.
But then you had Amy and Tina who were up against other SNL people, and they won because they were the clear favorite. And I think even if these other This Is Us guys get in, I don't think it'll hurt him. It's not going to help him.
Hold on. I'm not going to predict those other people.
Well, for drama guest actress, this one might even be harder for me. I can see this category being filled with shows that aren't even really high on the Emmy radar in other top categories. I think like five out of my 6 nominees aren't. I'm not even predicting their shows for best drama. I'm not even going to reveal what I have. I just want to ask you guys first what you guys have, so I know if I'm crazy or not.
I actually have Laverne Cox for Orange is the New Black. She was nominated back in season 1 when this was a comedy. She lost to Uzo, who had the more, kind of over-the-top character. But last year on Orange, which is interesting because the new season is airing now during voting, but they're actually voting on last season of Orange, where she had the big solitary confinement episode storyline. She was absolutely fantastic. And then she's in the first couple of Oranges this year to kind of remind people, oh yeah, she was great last year. And I also have Ann Dowd getting in for The Leftovers. She could win. Alexis Bledel could win. Rounding out my list, I have Allison Wright for The Americans, Carrie Preston for The Good Fight, and Cicely Tyson for How to Get Away with Murder.
I got the same 6.
Well, who do you have?
Here's what's weird for me, because I am looking over at the left side where I can see, what are the, who are in the top basically 6 or 7 from a user standpoint, from everybody. And I'm always the first one to predict a category because I create it and then I go in to make sure all the pictures are there, everything looks right, and I just drag over my people. So when I made my 6 out of my 7 are in the top 7 for the overall. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes because people they see, whoever has predicted, like me, and then they're like, oh, well, I should be predicting this person and this person. So I don't know how much of that happens, but I've got Ann Dowd winning. I think that could happen in a Margot kind of a way. Cicely's gotten in for this role before. We all wondered last year. We talked about Margot earlier being on the ballot twice and supporting this time. Could that hurt her? Cicely Tyson had 2 really strong last year in this, and Murder, and also House of Cards. So she would have been on the ballot right next to herself. That might have been why she got left out last year. She doesn't have that problem this year. I've got Laverne in 3rd, Allison Wright in 4th, Carrie Preston in 5th, and Alexis Bledel in 6th, who is, if you look at our overall odds, Alexis Bledel is in 1st place.
I would love to see that happen, just as justice for Gilmore Girls. And you never know. There might, I don't know if Gilmore Girls, I definitely don't think she'll be nominated for Gilmore Girls, but I mean, certainly that's going to be on the radar of people, knowing that she did that this year as well. And so that could help her.
I will say this, if our people are similar to any group of voters, for weeks, I get the emails from the system about people, complaining that so-and-so's not in the system. Not in there for predictions. And long before we had guests, I probably got an email a day. Why don't you have Alexis Bledel in supporting? And I had no way of responding back and saying, well, Hulu told us she was going to be guest. So obviously there's some demand out there for her for this role to get some awards for it. So I'm just skeptical. I've got her in 6th place because I feel the momentum overall, but we've seen Carrie Preston win for her role. We've seen Laverne and Cicely be nominated for their roles. Allison Wright, people also saw on Feud this year, and she had a really strong scene, and she could kind of take the Margot spot from the Americans. Marcus, you'll be thrilled. Gillian Anderson's in 5th place for American Gods.
She's great in the show. So is Kristen Chenoweth and Cloris Leachman.
Well, never underestimate Cloris Leachman. I'm very tempted to drop her in because
I've got her in 3rd place.
When she's on a ballot, she gets in. Period.
Yeah, Cloris Leachman doesn't need to be in much to just. She's one of those name check. I've never watched your show. This show gets 1 nomination this year. It'll be Cloris Leachman. And it's interesting because American Gods has 3 Emmy winners in this category with Gillian Anderson and Kristen Chenoweth. I don't know that Gillian and Kristen are that kind of name check kind of person who, if they see their name on the ballot, they'll just check them off no matter what, even though they've won before. But Gillian Anderson, in the episode that she's on the ballot for, she plays David Bowie and Marilyn Monroe. This is such a transformative role that, if voters have seen it, if enough voters have seen it, and there's so many contenders in this category that maybe you don't even need a huge percentage of voters to have seen it, they're going to vote her in here. She's definitely the top choice if you've actually seen American Gods. I've got Carrie Preston winning just by default because she's won before for this role, and then I have Laverne in 2nd. I've got Cloris and Gillian. I have Alexis Bledel in 5th. I'm similarly skeptical about she's never gotten in before, and this is a new role and a new show, and I'm certainly not confident enough to predict her to win. And then I just moved Ann Dowd in there, but I could replace her with Cicely. I could replace her with Allison Wright. I think Allison Wright should have won Supporting Actress last year for the Americans when she was on when she was a regular. We could see House of Cards overperform like it did last year in the guest categories, like maybe a Kim Dickens, even a Shannon Purser for Stranger Things. So much buzz for that character. There just might just be enough love for her to sneak in an open field, and we've seen non-household names, kind of
non-household names need almost exclusively need to be on, especially in guests, need to be on a show that's going to do really well. You never see a non-household name and a show that might be that's only nomination or 2 nominations or something. You don't ever see that combination.
Well, there's
Stranger Things could drag her in.
There's one slight exception, and he's sort of a household name just because he's kind of Hollywood royalty. But I remember that one year Jason Ritter got in for Parenthood, the only acting nomination Parenthood ever got, and it was just that out of nowhere, out of left field nomination for Jason Ritter. But of course, he would have been better known than
half the people thought they were voting for John Ritter, so don't. They didn't know.
And by the way, if anyone predicted Mark Margolis for Better Call Saul, you should update your predictions. He has been removed from the ballot. He was actually in too many episodes.
Mark has personally removed him.
Which makes me think of Patricia Clarkson, because if she had been in, I think, 2 less episodes, she could have gone guest. I probably would be predicting her for guest to win, because they love Patricia Clarkson and this was in House of Cards I'm talking about. But she was in too many, so they submitted her for supporting, and now it's questionable whether she'll even get in.
Yeah, so, she won this twice for 6 Feet Under, when 6 Feet Under struggled for acting wins.
So House of Cards writers, make sure next year you have her in less than 50% so we can predict her in guest.
And of course, the elephant in the room, if they get in, of course they'll win Rihanna and Mariah Carey. Am I right?
If this is the Globes.
No, yeah, no Lady Gaga in here, unfortunately. But yeah, you have Rihanna in for Bates Motel. I think she's probably the likelier of the two. You know, she played the Oscar-nominated character, Marion Crane, who's played by Janet Leigh in the original film Psycho. And of course, Mariah Carey in Empire, which, you know, she did prove surprisingly adept at acting when she had that small role in Precious, which was also by Lee Daniels. So just a shout out to her too. But other than the people we mentioned, I'm not sure. Candy Alexander, she's been nominated before for Scandal. I could see her getting in just as kind of a name check sort of situation where they recognize her and they've liked her before, even though Scandal's pretty much fallen off. Jane Lynch in The Good Fight. Looking for this
Mary
category.
Louise Parker, they like a lot.
That's true.
On Billions, that could be a possibility, but there aren't. When you get past about 10, it's a little tougher in this category.
Yeah, it's a little, but it's at the same time, I could see someone at near the bottom of our list being just one of those "where did that come from" kind of nominations. You know, like an Uma Thurman when she got in for Smash. No one thought she was getting in for Smash that year, and she got that one, and so she's on the ballot again for The Imposters, which it's not as much on the radar even as Smash was, so that's probably gonna be a struggle for her. Even a Gloria Rubin for Mr. Robot, she's been nominated before for ER. So there could weird things could happen in this category, even though I'm sort of trying to be conservative with my predictions. So it looks like that does it for drama. You know, we have been discussing this for 17 years now. So thank you for bearing with us, and we will keep talking about these Emmy races until those nominees are unveiled in July. So plenty of time to discuss these, and thank you for watching.